Okay, good morning everybody. It's an absolute honor to be back here. It's a pleasure, it's a homecoming of sorts, and it still feels a little weird to be called the chief guest at a place which I've been calling home for 4 years in the past. Nevertheless, lots has changed since then. I was a proud Pesitian back then. I am still very proud of this institution and to see how things have changed and evolved and improved in the years since. There are a couple of familiar landmarks from my days as a student here, and many more new things have come up which I got a glimpse of during my walkthrough just before this program started. It's inspiring to see the growth that has happened at this institution, led ably by the administrative team, the staff, the faculty, and most importantly, the students who take things forward and attract the best talent further ahead. So dignitaries, respected faculty members, students, today we not only celebrate the Independence Day for India, it's not only about the freedom that the country has achieved, it's also an opportunity for us to reflect on the responsibilities that come with that freedom. So when we say freedom, it's not only about the political freedom of a country, it's also the creative freedom, the intellectual freedom, the freedom to pursue what you want to achieve. And over the decades since 1947, India has gradually moved up the value chain. We started as consumers, and then through execution excellence, we became generators of value. And now we are leaders on the world stage through our innovation. A lot of these themes again touch upon some of the points that Sir made in his introduction, as well as many of the placards and banners that I see around the campus. Now, when we look back at our rich heritage and where India was, where we have come since then, yes, there's a lot to be proud of. Today, my focus is more on looking forward, and as the generation that is going to take India into the decades ahead, I just wanted to share my experiences and some learnings and some thoughts that I wish somebody had told me when I was your age, sitting there. So today, India is at an inflection point in terms of how it grows. There is a lot of buzz and enthusiasm about self-sufficiency, Atmanirbharta, doing what we need to do to claim our position on the world stage and so on. So when we talk about innovation and leadership and so on, the conversation naturally turns to entrepreneurship. The Indian startup ecosystem today is booming like it never was before. The government policies have enabled that. The structure available through educational institutions, research institutions, and startup incubators have enabled students to drive the next wave of innovation in this country. At Boeing, I have been fortunate to be part of the BUILD program, which essentially engages with universities and student-led startups. So through that program, I have had the privilege to observe and mentor some of these student-driven startups, which are making waves, whether you look at it as the next generation engines or launch rockets, whether you look at it as converting banana fibers to fabric, you look at it as cochlear implants without the non-invasive cochlear implants, you name it, and students are driving amazing change across the different fields. Core engineering, IT, materials, sustainability, you name it, students are there. It's no longer the domain of the existing corporates, the established corporates. The new startups started by students while they are still in college is making the difference. And India recognizes this and is partnering with these companies to take the country forward. That said, entrepreneurship and research may not be everyone's cup of tea. I totally recognize that. Nevertheless, there are a certain set of guiding principles that I believe would enable any of us to achieve growth and leadership and innovation in our future, whether on our personal front, whether on the professional front. So, coming to those principles. The first one is belief. Belief in oneself, belief in one's abilities. Today is a wonderful opportunity to consider that India got where we are because our forefathers had the belief that we can unshackle ourselves from the colonialism that enveloped us and march forward on our own power. And within just a few decades, India has grown to become one of the largest and fastest growing economies in the world. And that is because of every citizen of this country who's done their bit. Confidence is contagious. So when you have the belief in yourself that you are good, you are capable and you can do something, the people around you start believing in you too. So start with that self-belief and just watch where it takes you. A great example of this is Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, who needs no introduction. Back in 1969, he was tasked with leading India's first satellite launch mission, an unheard of target back then. Dr. Kalam put together a top-notch team. He pulled together the resources required and led the team ably. Of course, the team faced lots of obstacles and challenges, but Dr. Kalam's unwavering faith in his team and in India's potential led the team to tremendous success. Less than a decade later, in 1980, India became just the 6th country in the world to successfully put a satellite in orbit. Dr. Kalam's journey from a tiny village somewhere in Tamil Nadu to being a figurehead of science and later politics of this country stands testament to his self-belief and how it can take people forward. He often said, if you want to shine like the sun, first burn like the sun. I think that thought can light our way forward. The second principle is resilience. Now, the road to success is neither straight nor smooth. There will be setbacks, life throws unexpected curveballs, you will encounter challenges, failures, obstacles, but how you handle them is what defines you. Failure is not a blocker. You would have all heard the cliche, it's a stepping stone to success. The point is, how do you turn failure into an opportunity for your further growth? And nothing exemplifies this more than our first war of independence in 1857, and it took us 9 decades after that to finally get there. Several generations came and went, but the resilience in the communities, in the men and women, never wavered. India finally got the independence in 1947, and we have continued marching forward ever since. So linking that back to what we might face in our day-to-day challenges, persevere. Never give up. There is always a way forward. It may not be straightforward, it may not be obvious, but keep looking to grow. An example I would like to quote in this context is the versatile and legendary singer Kishore Kumar. Not many of you may know that early in his career, he faced multiple setbacks. He faced so many rejections that a lesser person would have just given up and switched to a different career. Not Kishore Kumar. He even got rejected by S.D. Burman, who said, Kishore Kumar, your voice is not suited for film music. It just doesn't cut it. What did Kishore Kumar do? He went back. He worked on his craft. He crafted his own unique style, and the rest, as we know, is history. The third principle I want to talk about is upskilling. Now, continuous learning is the key to ensure that we are always staying ahead of the curve, driving that next change that's coming up, whether in your life, in your company, in your career, in your country, in the world, you name it, that happens through upskilling. Knowledge by itself has a certain amount of value, but how you apply that knowledge to change things for the better is where the true test of your wisdom is. The continuous learning allows us to break barriers, find new vistas to explore, connect the dots in ways that were never thought of before, and make big things happen that were just a dream not too long ago. Dr. Devi Shetty, one of India's most recognizable cardiac surgeons, is a fantastic example of continuous learning. We all know, and he himself knew, that he's a great surgeon very early in his career. That said, he was not content with that. He looked at the rest of the ecosystem around him and observed that quality healthcare is scarce in this country, especially to the underprivileged. He took it upon himself to change that. As a qualified and a top-notch surgeon, he went beyond his comfort zone to learn about the administration. How do I set up these hospitals? How do I make it financially viable to run in the long term? How do I get it to reach the underprivileged sections of society across the country? And this perseverance and upskilling for him ended up with the Narayana Health series of hospitals, which provides affordable cardiac care and surgeries to the underprivileged. He did not stop there. He continued to advocate for identifying more low-cost or reachable healthcare solutions for the people of his country. In Dr. Shetty's words, to be successful, you need to do what no one else is doing, and that requires constant learning and adapting. All of these principles so far are things that you can do by yourself. But there's a critical piece, which is connections with people. That brings me to the fourth principle, which is nurturing relationships. India's road to independence was not forged by one individual or a handful of them. It was through the concerted efforts of a huge number of thinkers, academics, and revolutionaries and activists who worked tirelessly year after year, decade after decade, to get us that much cherished prize. Similarly, in your career, you will always have opportunities and reasons to collaborate with others, because that is the only way you're going to achieve something truly magnificent. Never underestimate the power of the network. Teamwork teaches us to appreciate the values of diverse perspectives. We all have what we think is the best way to go about certain things. There's always a different opinion, and each opinion matters. There are aspects to every situation that no individual can consider and think of and solve for. So the power of a team is something you really need to imbibe in yourself, drive that as part of your everyday. Nelson Mandela, again, a name that needs no introduction, and he was one of the legendary leaders of his country and in the world in the late 90s. He was imprisoned for 27 years. 27 years he spent building relationships with other prisoners and even the people who put him in prison in the first place. The culmination of all of this was when he was the president of the country. He invited F.W. de Klerk, and this partnership enabled South Africa to transition from being a country torn apart by racial oppression into one that graduated into democracy and peace between all the communities. Mandela focused on nurturing the relationships with all the stakeholders to ensure that his country moves forward. He could have very easily chosen the path of vengeance. We know where that path would have led the country, and we know where South Africa is today. Undoubtedly, Nelson Mandela's approach towards the relationships led to South Africa being what it is today, a multicultural society that shines as one of the prolific countries in the African continent. The fifth principle I want to touch upon is creativity and innovation. Now, as human beings, we are fundamentally problem solvers. We are innovators. We look for ways to find solutions to problems that bother us. It could be small, it could be large, it could be global or beyond. As human beings, we find a way to get past that challenge and on to the next. Today, I invite all of you to think about what role you would play in innovating what comes next for this country. Whether it is smart cities, telecommunications, or AI, the buzzword of the day. There are endless opportunities for where you can play a role in coming up with the next new idea. Now, one thing I tell a lot of my team members in the corporate context is innovation is not necessarily something big, something totally new, huge. No. Innovation is making that incremental step forward. It is making that improvement over something which wasn't there yesterday. It is about those small steps that add up over a long period of time, which result in a huge impact down the road. Don't look at what did that one step do. May not be much, but as they say, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. In this context, I think Khan Academy is something that I would like to quote. Many of you would have heard about Khan Academy or used it extensively perhaps. How did it start? It started because Salman Khan wanted to create a few videos to tutor his cousins on mathematics. That's it. And today, what has it grown to? A huge educational platform with millions of users daily. The key is Salman Khan did not look to set out to create such a huge platform in the first place. He started small and it grew organically to what it is today. Along the way, the innovation that he brought in was to fundamentally rethink what education is like. Innovation in education is not only about making the classroom more engaging. Yes, that's an important aspect, but that's not the end. How do you make it reach the wider mass? How do you make it tailored to what each individual wants as part of their development journey? That is the crux of how Salman's innovation for the Khan Academy took it to where it is today. The final principle I would like to touch upon is humility. Now, humility is about understanding that the greatest breakthroughs come about not because someone had a brilliant idea somewhere, but because it's the culmination of a lot of things that happened in the background leading into it. Taking the perspective of others, observing what happened, what didn't work, what worked, experimenting, failing, trying again. And after all of this, the glory may be attributed to one person or a few, but the effort that made it happen was by a large team that worked together. Often the unsung heroes, many of them may never see the credit in their lifetime, but the people who are named as the faces of these successes, as long as they are aware of it and they acknowledge it, I think that's a great start. Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, the architect of the Green Revolution. Do we know any other name associated with the Green Revolution? Not one. But he is the first person to admit and acknowledge that, in his words, he was just a small cog in the wheel of progress. The real heroes are the farmers who adopted the scientific breakthroughs and technologies that Dr. Swaminathan and his team came up with. He never failed to acknowledge the value provided by his wider team in the results that India accomplished through the Green Revolution. Now, all these principles are simple, familiar, straightforward, but they alone will not get you the grand success that you would dream about. The only way to get to that success is by supporting these principles with a solid foundation of certain values. Now, the first of those is consistency. These principles that I talked about may help you achieve a momentary success, but the sustained application of these is the only way to ensure enduring and a larger impact at the society level, at your personal level, at whatever level. What does consistency mean? It means that you show up. And not just show up for the sake of it, you show up with the intent to do your best, with your full focus and a commitment to give every last bit that you have. This consistency and commitment is what helps you keep going when success seems far away and you still need to get there one step at a time. Consistency helps you keep putting that step after the other step after the next, and eventually your goal is in reach. The second layer is health. Often underlooked, this is perhaps the most fundamental thing that enables any of us to achieve what we do. All too often, especially early in our careers, we go all in about doing the best we can in the professional context. Health takes a back seat because at that age, the body is willing to cope, it puts up with it, and we may not realize the damage we are doing in the long run. But when you look at it over the course of a lifetime, do take that effort and time to invest in your own health. The power of nutrition, exercise, and rest cannot be understated. And when we talk about health, it is not just the health of the physical body, it's the health of your mind. How balanced, how calm, how composed you can be in the face of challenges defines how far you can go in overcoming those challenges. The third layer is adaptability. The world never goes according to what we want it to do. We have our plans, fantastic, it's good to have that clarity of thought. But go into that plan knowing that a lot of it will not play out the same way. You may have backup plan, you may have plan C, D, E, F, whatever number of alphabets, doesn't matter. Something different will still happen that you have not planned for. How adaptable can you be? How will you handle that new challenge that came up that you never anticipated? How flexible can you be in your approach? How willing are you to step back from what you thought you ought to be achieving at this point versus what is reality? How willing are you to take a step to the side before you can take a step forward? That is adaptability. Adaptability gives you that flexible mindset that enables you to bounce back faster and stronger from anything that you might have perceived as a failure previously. And the final layer is integrity. This is something that is often underlooked because in today's world, we celebrate the individual success so much that how that success happened sometimes is lost by the wayside. Understand that every action you take at every stage in your career, and be that whatever career path you may choose, irrespective of that, the actions you take, the role you play, will have a profound impact on someone's life in some aspect or the other. It may be direct, it may be indirect, but your work impacts lives. With that responsibility, there is also the automatic consequence that sometimes you are faced with a choice. Do I do the right thing or do I do the easy thing? Sometimes you're lucky and they coincide, but more often than not, that's a tough choice to make. And the choice you make at those moments defines who you are. The actions build your character. Character over a time becomes your reputation and eventually your legacy. Focus on integrity, and with that, focus on the rest of the pillars and layers that will take you places. So to summarize, the principles, I would call it brunch. Belief, resilience, upskilling, nurturing relationships, creativity, and humility. Couple that brunch with chai, your 4 layers that power it all: consistency, health, adaptability, and integrity. I invite you to take back brunch and chai with you every day and see how you can adapt it into your day-to-day life, whether in the personal front or the professional front. As the generation that is going to lead India into its 100th year of independence in the not too distant future, there is a lot of responsibility on your shoulders. Know that you have a lot of support and guidance available all around you here. Institutions of learning like this, your families, your social networks, your corporate settings, your friends, your relatives, all of them are your network. Leverage what they have, take the best from there, adapt it into your day and move forward. As you do this for India, remember that you have a wonderful opportunity to craft what some previous generations never got the chance to do, because you have these support structures. You have the ability to create more of these structures to formalize the way India progresses. A lot of times the progress has been relatively ad hoc, relatively unstructured, and yet we have gotten to where we are within those constraints. Moving forward, you have all the facilities to drive India to become a true shining example of what the youth can do for a country. So with that, I invite you to lead us all into the future and wish you the very best for your careers and everything that you do. All the best and happy Independence Day to everyone. Jai Hind.
When we thought of inviting Arvind Shankar, we did hear that he's a wonderful speaker, but this was a revelation of sorts. Fantastic. What a speech. Our Chancellor, Professor Jawahar, is fond of acronyms, and I'm sure brunch and chai were two fantastic acronyms. I'm sure he'll come up with a few more acronyms himself. And it wasn't lost out on me that many of these things that he was mentioning about belief, confidence, and the rub-off that happens are true to Professor Jawahar himself. The sort of belief he has and the sort of confidence he espouses, just being around with him, and the sort of dare and dash he brings into the systems. Not for nothing, this sort of an empire has happened. It's always a pleasure listening to Professor Jawahar. I invite him to make his remarks.
Good morning.